welcome to the second session of today's seminar. So my name is Kiki Vierdayanti, and I will be the host of this session. So the topic of this session is about the view of the International Astronomical Union on higher education in astronomy. So the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, is the international association of professional astronomers for more than 100 years. And the scientific bodies of IAU consist of 9 divisions, and one of them is called Division C, which involve in all aspects of astronomy education, outreach, history, and heritage. And today, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome our special guest, the President of Division C, Education, Outreach, and Heritage, Professor Richard Grijs. Hello, Richard. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
For your very nice welcome.
Thank you for accepting our invitation and saving your precious time to be with us today. But before your talk, please allow me to introduce you to the audience. So Richard Grijs is an eminent academic and journal editor with more than 25 years of experience in physical sciences. In March 2018, he joined Macquarie University, Sydney, Australia, as Associate Dean. Richard served as a scientific editor at the Astrophysical Journal from 2006 until 2012, and as deputy editor of the Astrophysical Journal Letters from 2012 to 2018. He received numerous awards, including the 2012 Selby Award from the Australian Academy of Science, and a 2017 Erskine Award from the University of Canterbury, New Zealand. Richard was the founding director of the East Asian Office of Astronomy for Development from 2012 to 2017, and it's an institution under the auspices of the International Astronomical Union. His current senior appointments includes role as senior advisor to the Australian government on the Australia Awards in Indonesia, as member of the advisory board of the Australia-China Consortium for Astrophysical Research, and as president of Division C of the International Astronomical Union. So Richard, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Allow me to share my screen. Good morning to all colleagues in Indonesia. It is an honor to be speaking to you on behalf of the International Astronomical Union. I would like to thank the organizers for the invitation, and in particular your Dean, Professor Sri Gutomo. I hope I did not butcher his name with my pronunciation. As is usual for speakers from Australia, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land from which I'm speaking. Prior to the arrival of the first European settlers in 1788, this continent was covered in a patchwork of more than 500 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander nations. I am currently speaking from the original land of the Wangal clan of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. Right, I was asked to speak about the International Astronomical Union and the views of the IAU on higher education. And that actually turned out to be more challenging than I had anticipated. The IAU has, for the most part of its more than 100-year history, been focused on doing research. And in more recent years, the IAU has also been supporting various groups from different parts of the community, different countries, different socio-economic status. But higher education is actually not one of the major aspects, or I mean, it is a major aspect, but it has not been at the forefront of IAU work. Here is an overview of the IAU structure as it is today. The IAU is right in the center here, which is all about knowledge advancement. So that's mostly research. Its structure is made up of divisions. As Kiki just said, there are about 8 or 9 divisions, including Division C. Each commission has one or more, each division has one or more commissions underneath it, and both divisions and commissions could have working groups on well-defined topics. Since the first strategic plan of the IAU, there have been a number of offices associated with the IAU as well, which do more of the executive actions. The IAU has been supporting international schools for young astronomers since 1967, and I will get back to that throughout my presentation. That was formalized in the Office for Young Astronomers. That's the top right one here. Yes. And the Office for Young Astronomers focuses on higher education, university students, master students, and PhD students. That's a very old program since 1967. The other three offices that you can see highlighted there are much younger. The Office of Astronomy for Development at bottom right, to some extent also focuses on higher education, but not exclusively. And it's more of a patchwork, a hodgepodge of projects that do or do not focus on higher education. Then we have the Office for Astronomy Outreach, which is based, I should say the Office for Young Astronomers is virtual, but the directors are based in Mexico and Norway. The Office of Astronomy for Development is based in South Africa with lots of regional offices. The Office for Astronomy Outreach is based in Japan, in Tokyo. And since late 2019, we have a new office, the Office of Astronomy Education. But that education means high school education, so not higher education. This was all inspired by the two strategic plans that the IAU issued since 2010. The first plan, of which you can see the cover on the right here, was the IAU Strategic Plan 2010-2020, called Astronomy for the Developing World. And at the moment, we are in a new era, and we're currently trying to execute the IAU Strategic Plan 2020 to 2030. I'll be talking about that plan in a bit more detail, but I would like to start by explaining how this all came about. Until around 2010 or so, the IAU was almost exclusively focused on doing research and supporting these international schools for young astronomies. But it was felt that the IAU had a broader role to play within the community. And so, as you can see from this diagram, it was felt that astronomy can have a bearing on very large numbers of aspects that are a cross-section with our society, from technology and skills to science and research to culture and society. And you can see some of the topics there. Astronomers have a very broad physical education. They're very good at dealing with data. So big data, electronics, space, and all that is where astronomers can apply their skills. And of course, we have a bearing on physics, chemistry, biology, maths, and stats. So there is a lot of overlap, cross-disciplinary overlap between fields. Now, that was the focus of the first strategic plan of the IAU. The new strategic plan has taken that context, the societal context, on board, and is now focusing more on supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And here you can see the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And the IAU's focus, the aim, is to contribute to at least half of these Sustainable Development Goals, not just on number 4, quality education, but on quite a few different ones as well. I am quite heavily involved myself in the Office of Astronomy for Development, as was introduced at the start. I established the East Asian node because I was based at Peking University, at the Kavli Institute, for 8.5 years. And I'm still on the oversight committee of OAD proposals. We are now asked proposers to explicitly indicate which of the Sustainable Development Goals their proposals will address. So addressing the Sustainable Development Goals has become a key priority of the IAU in the context of development. So let us have a look at the 5 key goals that the IAU has set for itself for the current decade. And we start by goal 1. The IAU leads the worldwide coordination of astronomy and the fostering of communication and dissemination of astronomical knowledge among professional astronomers. So that is a research goal, not necessarily related to higher education. Goal number 2, the IAU promotes the inclusive advancement of the field of astronomy in every country, is directly related to higher education, as is goal number 3. The IAU promotes the use of astronomy as a tool for development in every country. Goals 2 and 3 are key to the input from higher education and vice versa. Goal 4 is engagement with the general public, so that's less focused on higher education. And goal 5 is education at school level. So let us see what we do about higher education. Goal 2, theme 5 says that the IAU promotes the inclusive advancement of the field of astronomy in every country by facilitating the advancement of the next generation of astronomers and scientists, first of all, through the Office for Young Astronomers, those schools I talked about earlier, and of which I will show you a few examples coming down in the next few slides. And secondly, one is encouraged to use new methods of learning and best practices in pedagogy at university level. So on the one hand is the practical aspect, that's the schools. On the other hand is the development of education approaches. And that latter aspect is done through one of the commissions of Division C, Commission C1, which focuses on astronomy education research. I'll talk briefly about that commission in a few slides' time as well. Then goal 3 was the IAU promotes the use of astronomy as a tool for development in every country. That is led almost entirely by the Office of Astronomy for Development. The Office of Astronomy for Development has a very broad remit. Anything that helps our communities develop using the skills, the transferable skills that we have to offer as astronomers. And that includes higher education progress and development. And I'll show you a few examples of that as well. A lot of this is, again, based on those UN Sustainable Development Goals. I don't want to read all of the text, but this is from the strategic plan. Here, let's talk about the Office for Young Astronomers. The Office for Young Astronomers, the main task is to organize those international schools. Here's a recent example from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, 2017. Those schools, those international schools, have been organized since 1967. They're currently with Academy as the host country. These are 3-week intensive postgraduate schools in parts of the world where students do not have access to a broad, up-to-date astrophysics education. The target here are master's and PhD students who are not necessarily part of well-developed astronomy programs. With international career paths who know about the region in which they will be speaking. So to give you an example of where these schools have been organized, I have highlighted here 3 schools organized in Indonesia over the lifetime of this program, 1973 and 1983 in Lembang, and in 2013 at your institution in Bandung. Given the timescales, it might be worth thinking about another of those schools in Bandung, maybe 2023, but that's completely up to you, of course. In the broader region where you are based, in the ASEAN countries, there have been 4 additional international schools, 2 in Malaysia and 2 in Thailand. You can see it's been 53 years, 42 schools, 27 countries, more than 1,400 students. Let's have a look at that. At the top here, we have a map that shows you where the lecturers came from. More than 400 lecturers coming from 44 countries. The bar on the right shows you roughly how many lecturers come from each region. The bottom shows you where the students came from. More than 1,400 students from 94 countries. And you can see Indonesia is fairly well represented there. These schools are very beneficial for the students, and they achieve goals that one cannot achieve virtually by online education, because the students will have direct contact with international lecturers, co-supervisors, who might actually also try to recruit them for PhD positions at their home institutions. They will learn about material that's complementary to their basic astronomy backgrounds. They will have access to top-notch notes, lecture notes, and they will gain practical experience with basic bibliography, using how to search the literature in astronomy, and observatory tools, possibly virtual observatory tools. They might get some observing experience depending on the weather and on the availability of equipment. There will certainly be workshops on career development, and eventually this will lead to a network of fellow students to develop into the next generation of astronomy professionals in the region. So this is all about developing the astronomy workforce in the region, and it has been a tremendously successful program over the years. And so this is, of course, one of the key aspects of the strategic plan. I'm not going to read this in detail, but this in essence says that every 2 years, minimum every 2 years, we should have one of these international schools for young astronomers. At the moment, well, that was before the COVID pandemic, one school would be organized roughly every 2 months, and they want to increase that to 2 schools per year. It is a lot of organization. It's led by Itziar Arrechaga from Mexico, and they have a fantastic network already up and running to allow them to facilitate the organization of these schools. Each school draws about 30 to 40 participants, about half from the host country and the region, and the other half coming from outside. They strive for a good gender balance. Similarly, the professors who come to lecture should also have a good gender and ethnicity balance. These are active researchers in their fields. And in the new structure, the steering committee of the Office for Young Astronomers oversees the schools for the executive committee. And as the president of Division C of the IAU, I am ex officio a member of that steering committee. We try to rotate the schools around the different regions on Earth, Middle East and Africa, then Latin America and Caribbean, then Asia Pacific, and also selected countries in Europe. The idea is to promote diversity among new hosts in developing countries and to foster inclusion of developing regional poles. Now, here are some examples of, so that's the International Schools for Young Astronomers. The Office of Astronomy for Development is a bit more diverse in its targeting of higher education. And there's a lot that's going on in that field. And I will show you some examples where this has led to tangible benefits. Here's an example called Astrolab. Astrolab was a program undertaken in various African countries, particularly in Rwanda, Nigeria, Zambia, and Ethiopia, where students in low resource environments get access, undergraduate students get access to robotic telescopes to do actual science, to understand how the scientific method works and get an appreciation for doing science so that they might actually eventually continue to do science and enjoy doing science. Their teachers, their tutors come from the local area, but also from the broader area. And at the moment, there is a program that is training those teachers in South Africa. So this is, at the moment, mostly an African program. Another program here is in Haiti. The University of Maryland in the United States has teamed up with 2 universities in Haiti in the Caribbean to allow those students to do actual nighttime observations, do the data reduction, and get actual results, scientific results that can be published out of that research. These undergraduate students collaborate in Haiti, collaborate with students back in the United States. The Office of Astronomy for Development established a number of regional offices. Here you see on the world map in red where the various IAU offices are located. And in brown, you see the regional offices that cover most of the world, except where I am based in Australia and New Zealand. We don't have a regional office. I set up the East Asia office and Chinese Language Center when I was based in China, which is based here. And the office that covers Indonesia is headquartered at Narit in Thailand and covers most of the ASEAN countries. Here is an overview of where the various OAD, Office of Astronomy for Development, supported programs have taken place over the last decade or so. And you can see pretty much all over the place. And so there's a wide diversity of programs happening around the world. So another thing that should be happening, and I'm not going to read this out in detail, this is again from the strategic plan, but the IAU hopes to also organize advanced schools for students at master's and PhD in actual cutting edge research. This is currently at a low level because of the pandemic. Finally, work that within the Division C context of the IAU that has a hand in dealing with higher education. This is Commission C from Narit in Thailand. And their objectives are to promote discussion about a theoretical transdisciplinary approximation on how to effectively teach and learn contemporary astronomy at different levels. And you can see the goals there. So this is more a theoretical approach, and they want to do research into how to provide higher education in astronomy. So this is the flip side of the coin. It's not the executive side of things, but the theoretical side of things. Commission C1 also has joined forces with 3 other commissions within the IAU, commissions F2, F3, and H2. F2 and F3 fall under division F, which is planetary systems and astrobiology, and H2 is about stars. It's within division H, which is about stars. And this working group is quite specific. It coordinates training, education, and outreach in astrobiology at the international level, and that means astrobiology education at high school level, at higher education level. So this is what the IAU has been promoting, and it's ramping up its efforts in higher education and education in general, particularly with all these offices now being active. And so I see a bright future here for more involvement of younger astronomers in the IAU and more structured education approaches. So with that, I am leaving you with my final slide, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Richard, for a very comprehensive presentation despite short time allocation. Now, I would like to proceed to the next program of this session by inviting questions or comments from the audience. Please use raise hand feature in your Zoom panel. Let me check for the participants if there is somebody who raise hand. Not yet. Oh, Pak Hakim. There is Pak Hakim, please.
Good morning, Mr. Richard.
Hello, Hakim.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Actually, I wrote down the question to you. It is really rewarding that you highlight significantly the International School for Young Astronomer, and everybody knows that we have a long history about this in Indonesia back to 1973. Yes. So the question is, what will be the new look of ISHA, present ISHA? As far as I know, there should be a flexibility in the contents of the curriculum of ISHA to match actually the limitation or basically the requirement of the certain area where it should be hosted.
Yes, thank you for that question. It's a very good question. So ISHA has its setup. So there is a certain program that they follow around broad themes, and so there's always this career development workshop and some other basic subjects. But the lectures change from ISHA to ISHA. So, and each of the lectures, of course, has their own strengths and weaknesses, and so they will clearly speak to their strengths. And so the lectures bring in their own angle, and of course the local environment plays a role as well, because a lot of the lectures come from the local environment. And so there is definitely there are prospects to tailor the schools within the bigger framework of ISHA to the local environment, because that's where the students will be working eventually.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but there is still should be a mission of leveraging the students so that all the participants could experience the share, for example, a frontier usage of instrument or something like that.
Yes. So absolutely. So it's all about cutting edge science, exposure to cutting edge science, but also hands-on experience where possible. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other comments or questions from the participants? While waiting, probably, Richard. Until about 3 years ago, astronomy study program in our university, ITB, has been the only established higher education in astronomy in Indonesia since 70 years ago. What will be your advice to accelerate the development of higher education network in astronomy? And is there any plan from IAU to promote this?
I don't believe that the IAU sees that as its role. Well, actually, maybe I'm not entirely correct in saying that. I think this would be something you should be taken up by the Regional Office of Astronomy for Development. And I'll give you an example. When I led the regional office in the Far East, so China, Mongolia, Korea, North Korea, we actually helped 3 institutions, 2 in China and 1 in Mongolia, establish an astronomy program. And they started small. They didn't start with a full astronomy program, but they started with a minor in astronomy, for instance, in an earth sciences department. And that was the National University of Mongolia, for instance. We helped establish a new astronomy program at China West Normal University, and that was supported also by the Chinese government. And the China Normal College for Nationalities in southern China is located relatively close to the FAST radio telescope. And so they were very keen to establish an astronomy program, and the regional office helped facilitate that as well. So I would strongly recommend that if you're keen to establish more higher education of astronomy in Indonesia, get in touch with your regional office of astronomy for development.
Okay, thank you. Bunana, please.
Thank you so much, Richard, for giving us a really thorough tour of IAU. I think it is an exemplary union where scientific professionals are trying to not only promote its own subject of study, which is astronomy, but also trying to keep it relevant to the need of the current world. And if you could just give us a idea of the distribution of astronomy graduates over the, say, the 08 things that 080 covers, the Sustainable Development Goals, for example. In the previous panel discussion, we tried to see how astronomy could be related to various needs of the current world challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, that is wow. That's an easy question to ask, but not so easy to answer. Actually, you just had a discussion of, I assume, quite some time, and now you're asking me to answer in a few minutes. Right. So obviously, one of them is quality education. That's a no-brainer, right? But also gender equity, the education of girls in environments where girls do not normally get an education. That can be supported by education in the sciences, not necessarily only in astronomy, of course, but more broadly. The OAD program, some of them work with solar energy, so they promote clean energy in addition to an appreciation of the night sky. So there are lots of different links actually to these sustainable development goals, but you have to dig a bit deeper sometimes to actually get to them. From my recollection of having seen some of the recent proposals, there are at least 5 or 6 sustainable development goals that are quite regularly addressed by the proposers, but the IAU wants to address at least half of them, and I think that is still a challenge at this point. Sorry for not being more practical than that. But
thank you.
Thank you. I'm still inviting comments and questions from audience. Pak Muji.
Okay. Well, apakah kedengaran ya suara saya? Sudah.
Terdengar, Pak, silakan.
Yeah, I would like to ask, because I am from ITERA, Institute of Technology of Sumatra. I'm from Department of Atmospheric Science, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences. So this is maybe belong, in the future. It is maybe you can sustainable for sustainable development in on the earth. Yeah. So whether it is possible that we can ISA organize some ISA in our university, something like that. Because,
Yeah,
very young. Yeah,
look,
very young because already we started from to 2011, 18.
yes.
2018.
So there, the Office for Young Astronomers is always on the lookout for new hosts, because the organization takes some effort. So you have to put some effort in there as well. And so I think it is just a matter of getting in touch with the hosts and with the directors and saying, look, we're interested in organizing one of these schools, and how can we proceed? I think that is welcome to do such an approach. So if you're interested, but having said that, I'm sure there are some colleagues, maybe even on this call, who have been involved in the most recent ISHA in Bandung. So they will be able to help you find the right contacts and maybe collaborate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Last but not least, Pak Kunjaya.
Okay, thank you, Kiki. Thank you, Richard, for your presentation. I'm interested with your mention about the Office for Education. You said it is not for university education, it's for high school.
Yeah, it's specifically for school education, yes. And the office was officially announced in late November 2019. They're still ramping up. They're based at the Haus der Astronomie in Germany, in Heidelberg, Germany, and they're just about getting ready to really, do their thing. So it's a very young office, but they focus on school education.
Okay, actually, a few years ago, I wrote a book for astrophysics for high school in Indonesia. Maybe I can show you. This is the book I wrote in 2014. So I think writing such a book is in line with your program, right?
You would have to talk to the director of the Office for Astronomy Education, because I don't know exactly what he is doing. We will have our first meeting to actually get an idea of what the division and the office can do for each other in December. So at the moment, I just know the broad outline of what they're meant to do, but not the details. So you may want to be in touch with the director, Marcus Pussler, and you can find that information on the IAU website.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pak Kunjaya. Based on the session program, I think it's time for me to close this session. So once again, I would like to thank Richard for being with us today and for broadening our view on the IAU programs related to astronomy education. And I would also like to thank all the audience for the attention.